Alright, we were in the middle of doing a browse lookup and I stopped because it's easier to show you this as a separate item. They're so important to FilePro, probably the most important, easy to use function of FilePro. They tie together files. They let you look into other files and show them on the screen very easily. They're just a good thing. Browse lookups are kind of neat. We used to have to write them by hand years ago. Now they've been homogenized into a little function that you can learn and use quite easily. Remember that our lookup failed. In other words, we typed in some code into the customer code and it failed to find a matching record using the index A in the other file and using this field in this file as the key. Didn't find anything, so it failed. It said not VGC. Remember, VGC is now an alias to the name VG Customers, to the file name. So we said go to a browse lookup. And it's just below. We put this kind of code. When you ever use a go to, you try and put it somewhere very close to where you are and you don't go jump all over the table and everything. This is like a small, remember we're in a when leaving field routine and it has to end with either a screen or an end at this point. Those are the ones you know. Well, we're not going to say if it fails. We want to give the user a look into the file. Maybe they can just glance and find the code they need if they don't remember the code. How many people are going to remember 8-character customer codes? Not many. So if it fails, we're going to go to and put it right below where if we had not failed. Here we didn't fail. We fill up the fields and display and end. We're going to put the browse lookup right below that, and all it is this. We're on the line where we want a browse lookup to start. Make sure there's nothing below us, so we have some room to put it because browse lookups take up a couple lines actually. Now, if I'm on this field, I can use the same lookup wizard I used before. You'll get to a point where you probably type in your own browse lookups, but for now, let's use the wizard. We press F5. What file do we want? The same file. We want to look into VG Customers, and we could, of course, get a big list of all the file names if we wanted to. Let's use the very same alias. This is asking us, what do you want to shorten that name to? You know, what do you want to use an alias instead of the full file name? Sure, why not? We'll use VGC again. It's okay to use it up again. It's not being used before, so we'll use it now. This is asking you, is a record, how's a record to be found? Again, we're going to use a key field, and the index we know is index A in the other file, and we know that in this file it's field 3 that holds the key. Okay, it's all the same stuff. Now we're saying, do we have to protect the lookup in the other file? No. Here it's saying, what do we do if we find an error? Again, I want to do nothing. If I don't find it, I don't want to hit X or B or any of those. I always want to say N pretty much to this. Okay. Now I'm down on this. Excuse me, I didn't say N. Do we want an exact match here? Oh, I'm sorry, I mixed you up. It's an exact match. Yes, we want an exact match. And we don't want to do anything if we don't find an exact match. Okay, now let me explain what exact means and what greater than, or what a greater match or a less match means. We don't really want an exact match now. We know that an exact match just failed. We typed ACME that didn't find any all the customer codes over there are 8-digit customer code, 8-character customer codes. So it didn't find one. It matched ACME blank, 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 4 blanks with a customer code, and none of them have that. They all are like Acme 1000, Acme 1001, Fred 2003. They're all fully filled up codes. In this case, we don't want an exact match. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to say, I want the next greater match. Now, greater match means this. It means try and find me an exact match, and if you do, show me that first. But if you can't find an exact match, show me the next highest value in the index, and go from there on, and on. That's important. I stopped here on this X, and I went over and said, we want X, we don't want X, because I want you to understand that in this case, G does represent an exact match if one's out in the file. If there's not one out there, it will take you to the next value. We know there isn't an exact match for Acme 1000. So the first thing this browser is going to come up with, hopefully, is the next higher match to Acme 1000. And what do we want to do if we don't find anything in this file? Again, this is where we want to do nothing. Okay? And is this a browse lookup? Yes, this time it's a browse lookup. Now we get the second page of the browse wizard. Okay, what do we want to put on the header? Well, let's put the customer code first so that we see what we're actually getting. A browse lookup is going to show several records of the other file all on the screen, and we're going to get to pick the one we want to use. Let's put, how about just the company? Okay, and we could put maybe the city so we know it's the right city. There might be different cities, or let's put a contact name too. We'll maybe know. No, let's put city. Heck, city, and how about over here, contact name? Or we'll put the last name of the contact. Okay. Now, how do we show these fields? This is what's going to be on the heading of the browse up here, the browse heading. How do we actually show the fields? Well, it's showing them to us down below. There, those are the fields in the other file. And the first one we're going to want, next page with next page key. First one we want is 19, and I'm going to put it on the screen in the same way we always put fields on the screen of FilePro, with an asterisk to indicate the field. Now we'll space over, and we'll put the company is field 3. I can use tab to jump over quickly. The city is, let's see, the back page to get to the city. The city field is 6. And let's put the last name field, which is 2. Now hit enter. Okay, these next things in the browse lookup I'm going to kind of jump by quick. These are just the construction of how big and wide do we want the browse. Well, the browse window lines, we'll leave that at 12. And the row that it starts at, we're going to hit enter to default, and the column that it starts at. In other words, what row, column, and position does this browse start on the screen? You can place it anywhere you want. We're going to let it default. I just hit enter, enter, enter on those 3 things to take the default. Do we want a pop-up screen? Well, yeah, we could do that. Well, let's pop up screen 1. Why not? That means if we go past the browse and drill down into it, can we see the actual screen from VG customers? And if we don't know the screen numbers, we could press F6 here and get a list of them. There is only 1. Okay. Now, after we pick a screen 1, it wants to know where we want to put this pop-up. We're just going to default that and hit a default on the next one too. Okay, here's an important question. It says only show records that match the key, and it's defaulted to N. No, we were typing in ACME, and there were none that matched that key. So it's going to show no records if we only show records that match the key. So we're not going to say yes to this. We're going to say no. All right, and then it's asking us. What do we want to do with this browse window? Do we want to keep it on the screen forever, or do we want to position the highlight and retain the position of the highlighted bar on the browse? In other words, a browse window shows you a lot of records with a highlight. You move the highlighted bar around and press enter, for instance, and it will make it grab that record. Or you could just put a show only with no highlight up there pretty much, or well, it has a highlight, but you don't get to use it. These options I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, I hit enter. Actually, I hit the down arrow. Let me make sure I did this right. I'm going to hit enter. Okay, and now I get exit keys. Well, exit keys are important. How do we leave the browse if it's not good for us? We want to be able to bring the browse down, but for right now, I'm going to tell you about exit keys in a bit. I'll leave it with no exit key for right now, and I'm going to say, how do I want the records to show up in the browse, in ascending or descending order? Let's have them ascend. And where do I want to start my browse highlight? I'm going to start it in the middle. These are all defaults which I'm taking. And is there any processing special to this browse? And I'm going to say no. And I'll explain these things a little bit more and more later. And now you see what it's done. It's built along lookup, VGC equals VG customers, K equals 3, I equals A dash NG this time. It's not an exact match, it's a greater match. And then it says here's the browse information, and it shows you browse information. If I were to tab there, the browse. You don't have to understand much of this. It's 12 lines long, which screen is going to pop up and so forth. I'll show you what this all means. Then it shows down here what the heading is and what actual fields are. Now we're going one line below the browse lookup, where the browse lookup is only 2 lines, takes up 2 lines, and they do extend past the screen. As you can see, there are greater thans on each screen. Here, I'll go to the very end of this one, and then I'll go to the very end. This is fully using up 2 lines of the processing table. Now I want to say, what do I want to do if the person moves their highlighted cursor down to a particular record and hits enter? What do I want to do? Well, basically, I want to do this, don't I? I want to take whatever that record is, all that data, and pop it into my record. So I'm going to say 6 and 7. Rather than go back there, I'm just going to pop that code right here. I'm going to copy field 6 and 7 to my current line. And that's what I want to do if they press enter. Okay, I want to pop that stuff into my field, and I want to end. But you know what? There's something I want to do before that. Before I do any of this stuff, I want to clear the browse. C-L-E-A-R-B, clear B. Now that means, okay, they moved their highlighted cursor down to a particular record and they pressed enter. So I'm now going to test the next if line. I've handed control to them. They got a browse up on the screen right here. The browse is there on the screen. They're moving their highlighted cursor up and down the screen. When they finally find a record they want, I'm hanging here. The processing table is stopped. My at-when leaving field processing pointer is stopped right here, waiting for them to do something. And on the browse, they find a record they want and they hit enter. In that case, it falls down to the next line. There's no if line, and I'm saying, okay, fill up all the things from that browse lookup just the way you filled up all the things from the other lookup. Then I want you to clear the browse off the screen so it's not in the way anymore, and I want to display the fact that I changed those fields. Remember how important the display is. You have to refresh the screen to let FilePro know and let the user know that you've changed the fields. Okay, let's go take a quick look at this, and there's some things about it that are not going to be good, but we got to get through them little by little. Let's add a record. If I add an ACME100 and I press a 0 here, it should just populate the field and we're done. That's what it did. It populated all the fields and we're done. Let's break out of there and let's update and do it again. Let's just put in ACME this time. Now I'm going to hit enter. Look what happened. Our browse popped up. And the browse starts at ACME 1000, doesn't it? Goes to ACME 1001, ACME 1009, and then we go to ACT something something, and then we go to ALLA and ALLI. But the user is going to say, there's the one I wanted right there. ACME 1000, that's exactly the field I wanted. I can tell by the state, tell by the user. I'm going to press enter here. Presses enter, those fields get filled, the browse gets cleared, everything is good to go. This is enough to show in this record. I just want to show you how we're grabbing information from another file we're doing with that browse lookup. Let's go make a couple enhancements to it in the next record.